When my wife, Emily, first told me she wanted to be a surrogate for her sister, I thought she was joking. We had been married for 7 years, and though we had our disagreements, we always worked things out together. But this time felt different. She wasn't asking me for my opinion, she was announcing her decision. Her sister, Claire, had struggled with infertility for years. Emily's heart was always soft when it came to family, and she wanted to give Claire the gift of life, as she put it. I admired her compassion, but I couldn't ignore the knot forming in my stomach. Surrogacy wasn't just a favor, it was months of emotional, physical, and financial strain. And she had decided without me. That night, as she sat across from me at the dinner table, I tried to keep my voice steady. "Emily," I said, "you can't just drop something like this on me. This affects both of us. Did you even think about what it would do to our marriage?" She sighed, brushing her hair behind her ear. "It's my body, my choice. Claire needs me, and I can't just sit by and do nothing." Her words stung. My body. My choice. As if our marriage wasn't built on shared decisions. I realized then that this wasn't just about Claire, it was about Emily proving something to herself. But I had no idea just how far this decision would go, and how much she would come to regret it. The next few weeks felt like I was living in someone else's house. Emily was constantly on the phone with her sister, researching clinics, and making plans as if I weren't even in the picture. She glowed with excitement whenever she talked about it, but with me, she barely made eye contact. I tried to be supportive at first, even though my gut told me this was wrong. One night, I asked her, "Have you thought about what happens if things don't go the way you expect? What if it affects your health? What if it changes us?" She waved me off. "Stop being so dramatic. You should be proud of me. Not everyone is brave enough to do something like this." That word, proud, hit me hard. Was I supposed to clap for her while she risked everything we had built together? I started noticing small cracks in her enthusiasm, though. When the clinic called about the medical procedures, her face paled. When Claire mentioned the financial side of it, Emily hesitated, realizing her sister expected us to carry some of the costs. And still, she insisted on moving forward. It was like watching a train speed toward a cliff. And no matter how loud I shouted, she refused to listen. That's when I decided, if she wouldn't stop herself, I would make sure she understood what this choice would truly cost her. The first doctor's appointment was a turning point. Emily asked me to come along, probably expecting me to sit quietly while she signed the papers. But as the doctor explained the hormone injections, the side effects, and the emotional toll of carrying a child for someone else, I kept glancing at her. Her confident smile was gone. She looked nervous. On the drive home, I said carefully, "Emily, this isn't just a nice gesture. This is months of your body being pushed to the limit. And what about us? Do you really think we'll come out of this the same?" She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. "I'll be fine. And you're overthinking this. I'm doing something selfless." "Selfless?" I snapped. "Or reckless? Because there's a big difference." She didn't answer. The silence between us said more than words ever could. That night, I made a decision. If she wanted to test me, if she wanted to ignore the marriage we built, then I would let reality do the teaching. I wouldn't argue anymore. Instead, I would let her choices unravel in front of her. I started keeping my distance. No more reminders, no more warnings. If she truly believed she could do this without me, I would step back and let her see what life looked like when her selfless act left her standing alone. And little by little, she began to feel the weight of that isolation. Emily didn't notice it at first. She thought my silence meant I had finally accepted her decision. She walked around the house making plans with Claire, talking about baby names and future milestones, as if nothing had changed. But soon, the little things started to sink in. I stopped volunteering to drive her to appointments. I no longer asked how she was feeling after the clinic calls. When she talked about surrogacy, I gave her nothing but a blank nod. One evening, she came into the living room holding a stack of paperwork. "Can you look through these contracts with me? I don't want to miss anything." I didn't even look up from my book. "I thought this was your choice. Handle it yourself." The shock on her face was unmistakable. She wasn't used to me pulling away. For years, I had been the one she leaned on, the one who steadied her when she doubted herself. Now, she was forced to face the reality of what she had taken on, alone. A few days later, she called Claire after an exhausting round of medical tests. I overheard her voice breaking as she said, "I didn't think it would be this hard." And for the first time, she sounded unsure. I didn't say a word. Because the truth was already working its way into her heart, this wasn't just her body, her choice, it was our marriage, our life. And she was the one tearing it apart. The cracks widened faster than I expected. Emily started coming home drained, her mood swinging between irritation and exhaustion. She snapped at me over small things, then immediately tried to cover it with forced smiles. One night, she collapsed onto the couch, clutching her stomach. "The hormones are killing me," she whispered. "I can't sleep, I feel sick all the time." I looked at her calmly. "You wanted this. Claire didn't force you. Remember?" Her eyes filled with tears. For once, she didn't argue back. She just sat there, hugging her knees like a child. The following weekend, Claire stopped by the house. She came in with a bright smile, carrying baby clothes she had already bought. Emily tried to match her energy, but her eyes told another story: fear, regret, and doubt. Claire laughed as she spread the little clothes on the table. "Can you believe it, Em? You're going to make me a mom." Emily forced a laugh. But I leaned back in my chair and studied her face. She didn't look like a proud sister anymore. She looked like someone trapped in a decision too heavy for her shoulders. And I knew then, my silence was working. She was starting to realize the cost of pushing me away. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. By the time the second round of treatments came, Emily was unraveling. She tried to hide it, but I could see the toll it was taking: dark circles under her eyes, constant fatigue, and a nervous edge to her voice whenever Claire called. One evening, she sat across from me at dinner, pushing food around her plate. Finally, she blurted, "Why aren't you supporting me through this? You've always been by my side before." I set my fork down and met her eyes. "Because this time, you didn't want a partner. You wanted an audience. You made a decision without me. Now you're living with it." Her lip trembled, but she said nothing. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone with Claire again. "I don't know if I can keep doing this, it's harder than I thought," she whispered. Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I almost stepped in. But then I remembered, she needed to feel this. She needed to see the difference between making a choice together and charging ahead alone. The next morning, she asked me to drive her to another appointment. I shook my head. "Call your sister. She's the one you're doing this for." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. And for the first time, I saw it in her eyes: regret. But regret was only the beginning. The real storm hadn't even hit yet. Claire finally noticed something was wrong. She showed up at our house one afternoon, carrying another bag of baby supplies, only to find Emily curled up on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. "Em, what's going on?" Claire asked, kneeling beside her. "You look awful." Emily tried to smile, but her voice cracked. "I'm just tired. The treatments are harder than I thought." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Harder? She hasn't even reached the hardest part yet." Claire shot me a glare. "You could be a little more supportive, you know. She's doing this for me." I didn't move. "No. She's doing this because she decided to. Without asking what it would do to her, or to us. The room went silent. Emily's hands shook as she clutched the blanket tighter. For the first time, I saw her look at Claire not with love, but with quiet resentment. After Claire left, Emily didn't speak to me for hours. When she finally did, her voice was small. I thought I was strong enough. I thought I could handle it. But I feel like I'm losing everything, my health, my marriage, myself. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. You wanted to prove you could make this choice alone. Now you're seeing what it really means to stand alone. Her eyes filled with tears. And in that moment, I knew, she was starting to break. The breaking point came sooner than I expected. A week later, Emily stumbled into the kitchen late at night, pale and trembling. She gripped the counter as if she might fall. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. I thought I was strong, but every day feels like I'm falling apart. I closed the fridge door slowly and looked at her. Then stop. Tell your sister the truth. Tell her you made a promise you can't keep. Her eyes widened. I can't. She'll hate me forever. She's counting on me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. And what about us, Emily? What about your own family? You're so busy trying to fix your sister's life that you're destroying ours. She sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, she admitted what I had been waiting to hear: I regret it. I regret everything. I thought I was helping, but I didn't think about what it would cost. The words hung in the air like a confession. I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach out. Instead, I let the silence make the truth louder. She was finally realizing that some choices couldn't be undone, and that this was one she would never forget. The next day, Claire came over again, full of excitement. She walked in holding a baby stroller catalog, smiling like nothing could go wrong. But the moment she saw Emily's face, pale, hollow, and swollen from tears, her smile faltered. What's going on? Emily's lips quivered. She glanced at me, then back at her sister. I don't think I can do this, Claire. I thought I could, but it's too much. I'm not strong enough. The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Claire froze, disbelief etched across her face. What do you mean you can't? I've been counting on you. I've already planned everything. I stepped in before Emily could collapse under the weight of guilt. She should never have promised you something this big without thinking it through. And you should never have expected her to carry your life on her shoulders. Claire's voice shook with anger. So that's it? You're backing out? Emily broke down, sobbing into her hands. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I thought I was helping, but I didn't realize what it would do to me, what it would do to us. Claire's face hardened. Without another word, she grabbed her things and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence left behind was deafening. Emily sat shaking, and for once, she didn't defend herself. She knew, her choice had cost her not only her sister's trust, but nearly her marriage too. And now, she would have to face the consequences. After Claire stormed out, the house felt heavier than ever. Emily sat at the kitchen table, staring at the door as if hoping her sister would walk back in. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "She's never going to forgive me." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Maybe she won't. But at least now you know what happens when you make promises without thinking about the cost. Her eyes flicked up to me, full of shame. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to help her. I shook my head. You didn't just hurt her. You hurt us. You shut me out of the biggest decision of our lives and expected me to clap from the sidelines. That's not how marriage works. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I know. I thought I was doing something noble. But all I did was push everyone away. For a long moment, I let her sit in that silence. She needed to feel it, to understand the weight of her choice. Finally, I said, now you have to fix what's left. Not with Claire, that bridge might be burned. But with us. Because if you keep pretending everything is fine, you'll lose me too. Her face crumpled as she nodded. I don't want to lose you. I'll do whatever it takes. For the first time, she wasn't stubborn. She wasn't defiant. She was humbled, truly aware of how close she had come to destroying everything. And that was exactly where I wanted her to be. The days that followed were quiet, almost unnervingly so. Emily kept to herself, no longer talking about clinics, treatments, or her sister's dream of motherhood. She moved around the house slowly, as though carrying the weight of two failures, one to her sister, and one to me. One evening, she finally broke the silence. I called the clinic, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I told them I can't go through with it. It's over. I studied her for a long moment. This was the same woman who, just weeks earlier, had looked me in the eye and declared, my body, my choice. Now, she sat in front of me trembling, stripped of the certainty she once clung to. And how did Claire take it? I asked. Her eyes welled up. She hung up on me. I don't think she'll ever speak to me again. I walked closer, standing over her. That was the risk you took when you decided to play savior. You gambled with your health, your marriage, and your family ties. And you lost. Her shoulders shook as tears spilled down her face. I know. I see that now. I thought I was strong, but I wasn't. I didn't rush to comfort her. Not yet. She had to sit with the regret, to feel it fully. Only then would she truly understand the price of trying to make choices alone. And from the look on her face, I knew she would never forget it. Emily's regret turned into silence. For days, she barely spoke, moving through the house like a ghost. The phone stayed quiet, no more calls from Claire. The once cheerful energy that had filled our home was replaced by an emptiness she couldn't escape. One evening, she sat across from me at the table, her hands clasped tightly. I ruined everything, she said quietly. Claire won't forgive me. And you'll never look at me the same. I leaned back, letting her words hang in the air. You're right about one thing. Things won't ever be the same. Not because of Claire, but because of how you treated us, our marriage. You shut me out when it mattered most. Her lip trembled. I see that now. I thought I was being strong, but I was just being selfish. I wanted to be the hero, and instead I nearly destroyed the people I love. For the first time in weeks, I saw honesty in her eyes, not defiance, not excuses, just raw acceptance. I sighed. Regret doesn't fix what's broken, Emily. Actions do. If you want this marriage to survive, you're going to have to rebuild the trust you tore apart. She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. I will. I'll do whatever it takes. Just, please don't give up on me. For the first time, I believed she meant it. She finally understood the depth of her mistake. But whether her words would turn into actions, that was yet to be seen. Weeks passed, and the dust finally began to settle. Emily kept her word, she stopped avoiding the truth, stopped pretending everything was fine. Instead, she faced it head-on. She started cooking dinners again, leaving me notes before work, and asking, not telling, before making decisions. Small steps, but they mattered. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, she finally spoke the words I had been waiting to hear. I don't just regret trying to be a surrogate for Claire. I regret shutting you out, acting like our marriage didn't matter. I made you feel like you weren't part of my life, and that was the biggest mistake of all. I looked at her for a long moment. And do you understand why I let you face it alone? Why I didn't step in to save you from yourself? She nodded slowly. Because I needed to see it. I needed to feel the cost of my choice. Otherwise, I never would have learned. For the first time in months, there was no anger between us, only quiet understanding. Claire might never forgive her, and that wound would remain, but Emily finally realized something far more important: a marriage isn't built on individual decisions. It's built on shared ones. I reached over, taking her hand. Don't ever forget this lesson, Emily. Because if you do, there won't be a second chance. Her grip tightened around mine, her eyes brimming with tears. I won't. I promise. And in that moment, I knew, she would carry that regret forever. But maybe, just maybe, it would be the very thing that kept our marriage alive. Months later, life looked different. Claire still hadn't spoken to Emily, and maybe she never would. That wound remained, but in its place, our marriage grew stronger. Emily no longer acted on impulse. Every decision, big or small, she brought to me first. Not out of fear, but out of respect. It was as if she finally understood that being married meant we carried the weight of choices together. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "I'm grateful you let me face my own mistake. If you had saved me from it, I would have never learned. Now, I'll never forget." I looked at her, seeing the humility in her eyes, and for the first time since it all began, I felt peace. She had lost her sister's trust, but she had gained something deeper, a second chance at protecting the family she already had. And I knew then, regret had changed her, but love would keep her. A full year later, the storm had truly passed. Emily and I had rebuilt what was nearly destroyed, brick by brick. It wasn't easy, trust is harder to restore than to break, but slowly, she earned it back. She never spoke much about Claire anymore. Their relationship remained fractured, and though there were occasional polite messages, the closeness they once had was gone. At first, Emily mourned that loss, but over time, she accepted it. She learned that not every bond can survive a mistake, and sometimes, that's the price of growth. One evening, she sat across from me at the dinner table, the quiet hum of the house surrounding us. She reached for my hand, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I'll carry the regret of that decision for the rest of my life. But I'll also carry the lesson it gave me. And I'll never forget that you stood firm, even when it broke me, because it saved us." I studied her face, the woman who had once chosen pride over partnership, and who now understood what true love required. I gave her hand a squeeze. "Good. Because marriage isn't about one person making choices. It's about both of us holding the weight together. Never alone again." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't from shame. They were from relief, from love, from the knowledge that we had survived the fire and come out stronger. And as I looked at her, I knew this: her regret had shaped her, but our love had saved her. That was the ending neither of us had expected, but it was the one we both needed.